Hey boys, today's Siege video is going to be a little bit different. I made a poll on my community channel and you guys voted out the couple of video ideas I posted that you wanted to see my opinions on the Rainbow Six Siege operators. So let's do that. This is not a basis on how strong they are, this is just how much I like them or dislike them. So if you see an operator who is really strong but I don't like them, don't burn me at the stake like a witch, because I'm not a witch, I just have preferences. Let's do this. I put all of the operators in release order. I had to do this myself. The available tier list didn't have the two new operators, Striker or Sentry, and they were all in a jumbled mess. So I went ahead and reorganized everything for you and for me. First off on the list is Kapkan. I love Kapkan. I've always loved Kapkan, so he's going straight into the my favorites category. Good gun, great gadget, he has a C4, he used to have impacts, but those were removed, unfortunately. Honestly, what else is there that you really need out of a defender? He's fantastic. Tachanka, I'm gonna put him in I like Tachanka. I don't like his gadget, but I like his LMG. So he's gonna get a little bit of points off for that gadget. If he still had his old turret, I'd probably put him closer towards my favorites, even though the turret was bad. I still thought it was really fun. Glaz is gonna go with my favorites. I don't play Glaz as much as I used to, but Glaz is one of my most played attackers in the game in general. I just can't put him any lower than in my favorites. Fuse, I'll also put with Tachanka in I like them. Great gun in the AK-12. The gadget's kind of bad, so he gets a little bit of points off. Same thing that happened to Tachanka. IQ, I'm gonna put IQ in I dislike them. You don't see many IQ players anymore, and that's for good reason. IQ has kind of fallen off. Gadget kind of sucks these days. Good weapons, but a pretty bad gadget, and I don't play her pretty much ever. Blitz, I'm gonna put Blitz in my favorites. In the right lobby, Blitz is a devastating operator to play against, and he can be an absolute nightmare. In the wrong lobby, he gets absolutely pummeled into the ground by a competent enemy team. It's a little bit like playing roulette with Blitz, but I still find him extremely fun, so he's going into my favorites. Bandit, ooh, this is a weird one. I'm gonna put Bandit in mid. Now, I don't play a whole lot of wall denial operators anymore, and ever since Cade came into the picture in Siege, Bandit fell off relatively hard. Bandit is still really good on a couple of sites. If you want to trick Clubhouse, CCTV, wall, or chalet, basement. The issue is you could do both with Cade better. But Bandit's still useful and he has the MP7, which is fantastic, so we'll just keep him in mid here. Jaeger, ooh. I'm tempted to either put him in I dislike or I never play. I'll keep him in I dislike. Jaeger got nerfed into the ground over many different patches. He used to be one of my favorite defenders, but they kind of fucked this guy over way too hard. Rook, one of my favorites. I love Rook. Great gadget, you just said it, you forget. You brought your util for the team, you don't have to worry about staying alive. You can anchor as Rook, which is what you should do, or you could be a fun person and roam with Rook. People don't expect Rook just running around with an MP5 or a P90, or if you want to be a little silly, the shotgun. It can be surprisingly effective. Doc, I never play. I know that might be weird considering I put Rook in as one of my favorites. I just have never liked Doc. I don't like having to stay alive for his utility, and his utility was buffed dramatically from when I started, because when I started it only did a set amount of health restore, now it's basically a full heal. So it's a lot better, but I have a bad feeling with Doc, and I don't know why. I don't like it. It's probably because of all the times I got spawn peeked by Doc in the old days of Siege, because that's all anybody ever did with him. Twitch, I'm gonna put in I dislike. Twitch used to be really good. She used to do some pretty decent damage to the enemies. She could use her drone during prep phase, and it did, I believe, 10 damage to operators instead of 1. Might have been 5. It was either 5 damage or 10, but that damage stacked up really quickly, and you could actually kill defenders in attack phase if you played smart enough. That and the nerf of the FAMAS. The FAMAS used to have the vertical grip, but they removed it. So now the recoil is a little bit wonky, and they even reduced the magazine size because people were just playing Twitch for her gun. Pretty bad state Twitch is in. Just pick Brava, she's infinitely better. Monty is easily going in my favorites. In fact, he's probably going to the top of my favorites. I'm not going to keep this in order for the most part, but Monty is absolutely one of my favorite operators in the game. Purely because of all the matches I've won, just because I played Monty and I smoke planted, and the enemy team couldn't do anything. Fantastic. Before the shield rework, I had over 600 melee kills with Monty when we used to have Tracker actually showing our operator stats. That was before the melee was buffed to the pushdown thing it has now. I love Monty. Not much more to say in that regard. Thermite, I'm going to put in mid. On the right site, I'll pick Thermite if nobody else is. I think his 5.56 is pretty good. The gadget's good, but it's kind of annoying getting bandit tricked if you don't have a competent Thatcher. I prefer, in terms of hard breach, Ace, but we'll get to that later. Pulse, I'm going to put him in dislike. The UMP5 sucks. It's pretty decent on Castle because it has the ACOG, the 2.5 sights, and the Nitro combo with his gadget is good and can be very clutch, but whenever I play Pulse, I don't play him correctly. I'm usually just below sight waiting for somebody to get killed by a Nitro. I just don't like his playstyle. Not a huge fan of him. Castle, I'm going to put in I like. There's a lot of sites in the game that I like playing Castle on. He's not my favorite operator on defense, not even remotely. The ACOG gives him a really good buff though, so he's actually in a pretty good state now. The fact that Glaz can no longer break Castle barricades and hasn't for a long time was a really solid buff for Castle, but as a Glaz main, I hated that change. Overall, I like him. I wouldn't say he's mid, I wouldn't say he's my favorite. Ashe. I never play Ashe. I do not like that Ashe has essentially no utility. Sure, she has some soft breach from ranged, but a lot of Ashe mains just use that to break a barricade that they're going to rush into at the start of the match. The only thing people pick Ashe for is to run in, try and get some kills, no droning. That's it. I'm not a huge fan of Ashe. Thatcher, I'm going to put Thatcher in the same rank that I'll put Thermite. If we have a Thermite, there's a decent chance I'll probably pick Thatcher if nobody else does, just to help get that wall open. I like the L85. I've always used it over the AR33. Overall, kind of mid though. His gadget's only really useful in a couple of sites, and he's countered by Cade on quite a few of them, so he's kind of fallen off. Smoke. I know this is going to probably upset one of my viewers, but Smoke is either mid or I dislike. I'm going to put him in mid. I don't think I hate Smoke enough to put him in I dislike. I like playing Smoke to meme around. The fursuit on Smoke is really fun to just fuck with the enemies with, especially if you have the elite animation. It's just great taunt elite animation for when you win. I don't really like his shotgun anymore ever since the laser sight rework, and I've never been a huge fan of the SMG-11, and the fact that he removed his shield kind of makes his kit even worse to me. I'm just gonna say he's mid. His gadget's pretty good, but I don't use it properly most of the time. Sledge is one of my favorite operators. I already said earlier, I like the L85, I like Sledge's gadget. He's not the best operator in the world, but he gets the job done. There's quite a few sites I like to play Sledge on. I don't play a whole lot of vertical when I play him. I just like smashing shit and killing people. I tend to have quite a lot of success on Sledge, so I keep doing it. And the Master Chief Elite is pretty damn good. Mute is also one of my favorites. His gadget is absolutely fantastic for drone denial. He is not a great operator for wall denial. Don't use him for that. Usually want to combine him with Cade or Bandit. If Mute does his job properly, you deny the attackers so much intel. They're not using their drones. Guns are okay, a little bit better than Smoke's because he has the MP5K. That being said, I usually rock the shotgun with him anyway. If he could get an ACOG, though, on his MP5K like Wamai has, oh, he'd be so much better. Speaking of ACOGs, Frost. I'm going to put Frost in I like them. The C1, the 9mm C1 that Frost has is ludicrously good with the ACOG. People are really sleeping on it right now. The gadget's okay. After the nerf, I dislike the gadget more than I used to. The combo you could do before where you had a Frost Mat next to a Legion Mine, it would be an insta-kill once they go down, was fantastic, and the fact they removed that is really lame. That was an awesome synergy, and it's a shame we don't have that anymore. That being said, I still like Frost, especially now that she has the secondary shotgun. She didn't always have that. She used to just be stuck with her secondary pistol, and it's kind of mid. Buck, I'm going to put in I like him as well, just like Frost. Not a huge fan of his weapons, they're pretty decent, but his gadget's where it's at. I don't play him often, but when I play him, the gadget's pretty solid, he has hard breaches. You really can't go wrong with Buck. Valkyrie is easily one of my favorite defenders in the game, if not my favorite. I think by stats, I still have the most hours on defense with Rook and Valkyrie. Valkyrie is the queen of tower. I know a lot of people hate the map tower, but whenever I get that map, I'm happy because it means I get to dominate people with Valkyrie. Her guns are good. Well, her MPX is good. The shotgun's kind of trash. The Deagle's alright. If Valkyrie had an ACOG, she would be absolutely insane. But overall, the intel she brings with her cameras is extremely vital and just absolutely fantastic. I remember when I first started playing Valkyrie, I'd go to school after playing Siege, and I'd just be thinking constantly during the day about new places I could throw my cams, and I'd just go in the custom game mode and test out Valkyrie cam placements. It was fantastic. Blackbeard I can put in mid. Blackbeard I know is one of the worst operators in the game currently, but there's a couple of sites where you can really make Blackbeard work. You put the angled grip on Blackbeard, it kind of negates the movement penalty the shield brings, so it's pretty decent there. I'm interested in what the rework is going to be. I hope they buff his guns. His guns are absolutely terrible. The DMR is alright. His Scar, though, his Scar L, Scar H, I don't remember which, is pretty bad. Low magazine, kind of recoil. It's not fantastic. Pretty bad. Capitao, I'm going to put in mid. His gadget is good, his guns are great, the fact that he's a 3-speed is great. I don't know why I don't play him more. I really should. Actually, I'll buff him into I like them for that. I think he's fine. I need to play him more, to be honest. Caveira, I'm going to put in mid. In ranked, Caveira is absolutely terrible if the enemy team is communicating, but in casual, you can go absolutely wild with Caveira and just ruin the enemy team's day. When you get an interrogation on somebody that's downed outside the building, there is no feeling like it. Give her an ACOG on her SMG and she would be an absolute monster. Echo, in his current state, I dislike him. They nerfed the yokai effect, they made yokais no longer visible, they got rid of the ACOG on his MP5SD. Speaking of his MP5SD, it's not even technically suppressed, it's just a quieter sound. You can still see bullet trails and indicators from his gun. It's just a worse version of the MP5. What did they do to Echo, man? They need to buff him again. You barely see Echo players, and there's a good reason for that. I'm gonna put Hibana in I dislike. The rework she had was pretty good, gave her more flexibility with her gadget, but I still am not a fan of her primary weapons. The Barry 9's okay, but if I want to play a hard breacher, as I mentioned earlier, I'd rather just play Ace. Jackal is going to go into I like them. Not one of my favorites. He gets banned constantly in ranked, so you really can't play him at all. And if I want to play a tracker operator, recently I've actually started to really like Deimos. I know Jackal is better because he can use his primaries while scanning people and gain their location, but Deimos just feels interesting to me. Otherwise, though, Jackal has great guns. He's got the shotgun secondary. What more could you really want? Not one of my favorites, though. In the same branch, I'm going to put Mira with Jackal. Fantastic utility. I'm not that great of a Mira main, though. Sure, I got an ace the last time I used Mira on this channel, but that was kind of a fluke. A well-coordinated team can easily beat a Mira. Uncoordinated teams, though, Mira will absolutely shred. However, the issue with Mira is your own team is more of an obstacle for you than the enemy team. They will fuck up your setups constantly, and if they die, you get put in a situation pretty often that you do not want to be in. If you're in like a 3v5 as Mira, things get pretty bad pretty quick. Lesion, I am going to put in mid. There was once a time where Lesion was one of my favorite operators. That was when you could see his Lesion mines through walls. He was a fantastic intel op. He's still a decent intel op, and the SMG he has is pretty solid. But he's a shadow of his former glory. Still great, not as great as used to be. Yang, I'm going to put in mid as well. She is extremely strong. The gadget is fantastic. Her LMG is also really good. The only reason she's in mid is because I really do not like using flashbangs in this game. I don't feel comfortable using them. I don't like pushing somebody who I don't know if they actually got flashed or not. Because when I started, flashbangs were horrifically inconsistent. It has given me flashbang PTSD. And also them changing how the cooking system works. I don't like having to cook them longer for them to go off instantly. I liked when they went off quicker when you just threw them. Sophia, I never play. Both of her primaries suck. Her secondary pistol is pretty good because it has the red dot. Her gadget is pretty mid. Steer clear of Sophia. She used to be an absolute menace though. When I started in White Noise, Sophia was picked every round because her gun was absolutely insane back then. Sophia, I'm going to put in I dislike. I'm not going to put in I never play, but I don't fully like Sophia's gadget. She is, I think, a better Ashe. Just because she is slower doesn't mean she's worse. I think her AR is pretty good, and I think the gadget utility she brings is pretty good. I just don't like playing Sophia, but I like playing her more than I like playing Ashe. Dokkaebi, I dislike. I hate fighting Dokkaebis. I hate playing Dokkaebis. I don't like either of her primaries. I really don't like DMRs on attack, which I know is weird considering I have Glaz as one of my favorite operators. He's different though. The Mark 14 that Dokkaebi has I love on Aruni, I just do not like it on Dokkaebi. Secondaries are okay. Solo Q, she's a pretty bad operator, but if you got a well-coordinated team, she can be a nightmare. Vigil is one of my favorite defenders easily. If I'm gonna roam, it's usually with Vigil. His gadget's good, it counters Deimos, it counters Lion. His guns are pretty fucking solid, he has impact grenades. What more could you want out of a roamer? Finka is mid. I think Finka's guns suck. Her gadget is pretty decent in the right situations. Unironically, I liked Finka more when she reduced recoil. She used to reduce her and the entire team's recoil, but a lot of people complained because their recoil would suddenly change during a fight and then you'd get them killed. However, they balanced all of her weapons around having that recoil reduction. All of her weapons have a pretty high recoil, except I guess the Spear 308's not that bad. But she has the Russian LMG, and when she used to reduce recoil, the Russian LMG was absolutely cracked. I wish she would have the recoil reduction back, at least just for herself. Maybe don't give it to the rest of her team, but give herself that recoil reduction back. Give her a little bit something. Lion is absolutely one of my favorite operators. I don't think I use his gadget the most effectively, but I love the V308. And if you're in a situation where you get the bomb down and you still have Lion scans left, he is an insanely good attacker. What more is there to say? He's great, and I've always loved his design. Alibi. I like Alibi. She's not one of my favorites. Her guns are good, both of them. I do wish they would revert, or at least make it an option, to change her shotgun back to a buckshot and not a slug. It was pretty fun spamming the shotgun on full auto when it was released, even if it was pretty bad. Siege really needs to just update the shotgun system. We need to have options if we want to choose to have slugs or buckshot. Just let us change that, give us more options. Otherwise, having the Bailiff is really good, she's a fantastic roamer. Her gadget's pretty good for blocking windows and doors. It's pretty solid overall. The only thing she's missing is the ability to customize her prismas. A fantastic buff for her would be if you were crouching when you threw it, the prism was crouched. If you're prone when you threw it, the prism was prone. Give us more customizability and she would be great. Maestro, I like Maestro quite a bit. His gun used to be absolutely insane. He used to have almost laser accurate hipfire, and it had an ACOG. Absolutely insane. The only reason I don't play him anymore is because of Brava, but if Brava is banned, go wild. You can do so much damage with his 3 turrets, and he's really fun. Maverick I'm going to put in mid, but that's because I don't play him properly. If you use him to Maverick trick, he can be really good, And he has a fun combination with Glaz if you use your smokes and then Glaz through his Maverick holes into sight on a couple of different objectives. Overall, though, he's pretty mid. There's a reason he's not picked super often, and it just takes a lot of time to Maverick trick when you could be doing other ways to get through hard walls. Clash, I dislike. I really want them to change Clash in some way, but I don't know how they would. I hate playing against a Clash, and I kind of like playing Clash, but I feel really dirty when I do. I don't know. I'm just gonna say I dislike Clash for now. I do play her sometimes, so I can't say I never play her, but we'll just leave it there. Cade. I like Cade quite a bit. He is my hard wall denier of choice on most objectives, and the DMR shotgun he has is absolutely fantastic, especially on Clubhouse. I use him on Clubhouse and then hold the rafters. I usually get a couple of kills holding them. It's a great time. Nomad I'm going to put in mid. Her guns are relatively okay. They're nothing fantastic. The real thing you're getting out of Nomad is her gadget, and her gadget can be really good if you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, it's pretty worthless. I don't like playing her that much though, so I'm going to leave her in mid. Gridlock I'm going to put in the same row as Nomad. I think she has better guns than Nomad. She has grenades, which are really useful. She has the secondary shotgun, which is pretty good. The only issue is her gadget is a little worse than Nomad, depending on what situation you use it in. There's a reason you don't see a lot of people picking Gridlock, but I actually kind of like her. Mozzie I'm going to put in I like. There used to be a time where Mozzie was a operator I picked a bunch on defense. I think them removing his secondary shotgun was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. It made me play him a lot less as a roamer. His gadget's pretty good, but you don't see a lot of Mozzies actually taking advantage of the drones. We'll just leave it as I like him. Warden, I never play. Even when Warden was super strong and everybody was playing Warden, I didn't play him. I thought his gadget was pretty boring. His gadget's still pretty boring. Him having a Nitro is solid, though. I just wish he had better weapon choice. Nock, in her current state, I dislike Nock. I don't like her weapons. I think they're not great. Her gadget is pretty terrible in its current state. They really need a buff Nock. There's not much more to say. Occasionally I'll still try to play Nock to be a bit more of a sneaky attacker, but the fact she no longer has Silent Step, it's basically nothing. It's kind of worthless. Goyo, I dislike Goyo, even with the ACOG. I'm not a huge fan of playing him. I don't get a lot of value out of his fire canisters, and usually when I play with a Goyo, like I'm a different defender and someone else picks Goyo, they don't know what they're doing, and their fire canister placement usually fucks me over. Like, it cuts me off sight, cuts me from a valuable rotation. It could be an extreme hindrance to your team if the attackers abuse it. The Vector, though, is nice to have on an operator other than Mira. Amaru. Mara's mid. The times Amaru works, she works really well, but a lot of the time if you see somebody pick Amaru, they're going to die in the first 10 to 15 seconds of the match. She can be really good on Oregon. You can take her for an attic take, you go through Big Tower. She can be pretty solid there, but otherwise, her gadget's just okay. If the gadget was quieter and she could bust into sight without being detected super easily, she would be an extremely strong attacker, but in her current state, she's kind of just mid. Kelly, I like Kelly. I like snipers in most games. I'm pretty good at sniping. Her gadget's a pretty decent Thatcher alternative, and the fact she can break Miras now is fantastic on certain sites. If there's a Mira on Villa Study, Games Aviator, she is fantastic at breaking those mirrors. Omai is a better Jaeger. In his current state, I like him because he has the ACOG on the MP5K. I do not expect him to keep it, though. I'm expecting that to be taken away next season. It's not being taken away during New Blood, but this isn't going to last. It's currently the new Warden, essentially. Yana, I never play. I hate Yana. I know she's one of the best attackers. I know a lot of people love Yana, but I fucking hate playing Yana. Whenever I play Yana, I get into situations where if I just wasn't my clone, I could kill like 3 defenders who aren't looking at me. And then when I get off my clone and I peek that door, they're ready and kill me. Every time. I always get into a good position with my clone where I could just take sight very easily. and just annoying. If I want to be an immortal drone, I'm just gonna play Mati, because I can actually be useful and do more than just drone out. Oryx, I like him in his current state. On release, Oryx was absolutely trash. He took a lot of damage from going through walls, and he had the MP5 as his primary. He and Melusi swapped primaries, thankfully. He's actually in a pretty good state now. I'll pick him regularly often when I roam. Usually I'll pick Vigil though, but still fantastic. I don't use his hatch ability too often, but he is a fantastic roamer in his current state. Speaking of Melusi, I never played Melusi. I have never liked Melusi's gadget. I don't like playing around them. Combining Melusi with a Mira or something can be pretty effective. I just don't like playing her. Ace. Ace is one of my favorite attackers if I'm going hard breach. I love the AK-12. His gadget is pretty solid. I don't use it super effectively, I don't think, but he still has a fantastic kit regardless. Not a whole lot more to say about him. Zero, I like. He's basically just attacker Valkyrie. The only issue with Zero is not a lot of your teammates will use your cameras. He's really strong and ranked with a team though, if you take advantage of it. And his primary guns are fantastic. Aruni is one of my favorite defenders in the game. For some reason, I absolutely destroy people with Aruni's DMR. For some reason, when I play Aruni, I get put in positions where I have to roam, and I can clean house roaming with Aruni for some reason. She's just fantastic. Her gadget is pretty decent as well. Burns some utility, as long as your team remembers to shoot them and reactivate them. Flores, I never play. His guns are okay. His gadget's okay. There's a reason you don't really see anybody playing Flores right now, though. He's just mid. He's pretty decent at breaking, like, shields and castle barricades and stuff, but he's countered by quite a few operators. He's okay. Thunderbird, I never play. I actively consider Thunderbird to be one of the worst defenders in the game. If the attackers get site control and they get your Thunderbird stations, you have basically thrown the match, just by picking Thunderbird. And her weapons aren't that good either. She really needs a rework. Osa, I like playing Osa somewhat. I think Osa's weapons are really solid. The gadget is pretty good. I try to use Osa too much like a shield op, and Osa does not work like a shield op, so I fail a decent amount of time with Osa, but that's just my skill. I think Osa is a fantastic operator. Thorn is mid. The only reason people pick Thorn is because of her gun. She's a pretty solid roamer with her gun. Her gadget can get kills if you combine it with barbed wire and put it in a decent position, but everybody just picks her for her gun. We all know that. Don't deny it. Zombie is one of my favorite defenders, easily. Her DMR shotgun is fantastic, and the way that she can change the site in any way she really wants is exceedingly powerful. I'm not surprised they nerfed her, and I expect more nerfs in the future. Senz's current state is mid. I think the guns he has are kind of and his gadget really needs some kind of buff. He needs to either be able to see through his gadget, like Glaz and Warden can, or it just needs to not be destroyed by explosives. That's about it. The fact that nobody plays Warden anymore actually was a pretty solid buff to Senz, so he's not in the worst state, he's just mid. Grim, I never play. Guns are okay. Gadget is okay as well. I just don't like playing him. Same with Solus. I know Solus is fantastic. Getting nerfed a bunch though in New Blood. Gonna be nerfed even more in the future. I just don't like playing Solus. It doesn't vibe with me. Brava. I like Brava. Don't play her a whole lot, but when I do play her, I like her. Really good guns. It's always fun trying to hack Kapkan traps and blow up enemies that aren't expecting it. You see they have a Valkyrie, taking those cams can be really fun as well. Solid operator. Fenrir, do I put him on my favorites? Or do I just put him on I like him? I'm gonna say I like Fenrir. Fenrir has some of the same problems that Melusi has for me. You gotta play off the mines a lot. But the MP7 I really like. And I think Gadget is just, even after the nerfs, it's still gonna be really good. I just don't get to play him a whole lot in ranked, and when I'm in casual, I feel bad for playing him, so I don't. Ram, I never play. I want to play vertical, I usually just play Buck or Sledge. I know Ram is strong. I just don't like how slow she is. I think the gadget is a little too loud sometimes, and a little bit too predictable. Also, whenever I play vertical, I tend to get distracted, and sometimes I get snuck up on, which is a skill issue on my part, but still, I don't really play Ram at all. Subaru, I never play. Everybody just plays him for the DMR. Can we accept that now? He's pretty decent at some hard breach denial, but literally everybody just plays him for the DMR. That's it. Deimos I like. He is not one of my favorite operators yet, but in a well-coordinated team, Deimos can be extremely strong, especially late game. I had a match I recorded and put up on the channel a little while back, where I had a clutch with Deimos and I killed Bandit through the wall because I was tracking him when he was like half a second or less from defusing the bomb and winning. It was an insanely clutch moment, and was only possible because I was playing Deimos. Okay, we got the 2 new operators now. New in quotations. We have the reworked recruits. We have Sentry and we have Striker. We're gonna start with Sentry. I dislike Sentry. Sentry only really has one primary weapon. I don't see people using the M870 for any reason on Sentry. They're all gonna use the Commando 9. Sentry has some interesting gadget combinations that he can do, but if you're trying to do like some kind of C4 trick with Sentry, just play Valkyrie. So much more effective. And finally, Striker. I actually kind of like Striker. Striker has the unique aspect of EMPs and hard breach. Combine that with the fact that he has the M249 or the M4. I actually might play a bit of Striker in the new season, but that's just predicting things. Overall though, here is my final tier list. Put a lot of people in just the I like them category. This is kind of what I expected. I don't hate a whole lot of operators in Siege. There's just some I don't really like playing. I think the only operators I really hate are Yana and Thunderbird. Otherwise, the ones I dislike are kind of just mid to me. Curious what your stance is on these operators, though. What do you think of my list? Do you agree with me on any of these? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Just don't burn me alive. You guys have a good one.